So
if you're inclined to shudder when you hear the word spider, we're out to change your view. What follows is dedicated to the proposition that spiders and their marvelous feats of engineering are wonderfully beautiful and delightfully ingenious, like this water spider that lives in a diving bell. And this tall, thin lady who actually makes a net to catch her prey. Spiders are some of the most versatile creatures on Earth. There are some who build traps with hinged lids to outwit the unwary. Now watch closely. There. This spider with the boxing gloves is going courting. Love among the spiders is a risky business. In the words of the grisly old rhyme, "Would you walk into my parlor," said the spider to the fly. This is Peter Ustinov inviting you for the next hour to walk into that very parlor. All right, we don't expect to convince you straight away. For that, we need a guide. In this case, John Cook, who with his colleagues at Oxford shot much of this film. Until recently, he was curator of spiders at the American Museum of Natural History, New York.
Spiders are one of these incredibly neglected groups. I mean, they're so abundant. I mean, take a field like this. An acre of grassland would have anything up to 2.25 million spiders. That means that when you take a square foot of grassland like this, statistically, you've got 50 spiders running about in here at the right time of year. And of course, when one considers the number of insects that these spiders eat, then you begin to realize how very important spiders are in the natural world.
John Cook and fellow scientists have calculated that if each spider ate only one insect a day for a year, the total weight of their victims would exceed the weight of the entire population of Great Britain or France, over 50 million people. If you find it hard to believe that there are that many spiders around, just look at this one small area of woodland on an autumn morning, when their webs have been picked out and highlighted by dew and early sunlight. Little Miss Muffet, she sat on a tuffet, eating of curds and whey. There came a great spider who sat down beside her and frightened Miss Muffet away. Like Miss Muffet, most of our attitudes to spiders were conditioned in childhood by nursery rhymes and legends. So it may come as a surprise to learn that Miss Muffet was a real person. Her father, Dr. Thomas Muffet, wrote one of the earliest books on spiders. He is said to have dosed poor Miss Muffet with crushed spiders when she had a cold. No wonder she was put off them for life. The Scots owe a great deal to this particular spider. Their national hero, Robert the Bruce, sat watching it weave its web while hiding in a cave from pursuing English troops. The spider's persistence in completing its web gave Bruce the determination to fight the dastardly English once more. Inspired by the finished web, he finally beat them at the Battle of Bannockburn in 1314. Spiders go much further back into folklore. The Greek maiden Arachne challenged the goddess Athene to a spinning match. For her presumption, the goddess turned Arachne into a spider and condemned her to spin forevermore. Arachne's consolation must be that the whole family of spiders are known as arachnids. Most of us probably recognize just two basic spiders. First, the owner of that messy-looking parlor to which flies have an open invitation. It's Tegenaria, the house spider. When found in a corner of the living room, Tegenaria's parlor is also an open invitation to any sufficiently courageous housewife to go to work with a broom. Second, any spider that weaves an orb web like this one whose work of hours has been wonderfully captured in a few magic seconds. But spiders are far more versatile than that, especially when it comes to building webs. Just look at this fantastic piece of engineering, a triangular web supported at 3 points. It belongs to a rare British species called Hyptiotes, sometimes known as the triangle spider. It uses its body as part of the web, actually bridging one supporting thread and forming a living link in the silk. This way it detects when an insect hits the web. When this happens, it partially collapses the web, better to entangle its prey. All this time, it is still forming a link in the thread by paying out silk behind it. Having killed its prey, it now wraps the victim in a shroud of silk. Finally, it cuts its gift-wrapped meal loose, puts fresh tension on the web, and climbs back up the anchor rope, still forming the connecting link while it completes the wrapping process. Webs come in all shapes and sizes. This one belongs to Zygiella, the same spider that inspired Robert the Bruce. It's an orb web with a missing segment neatly bisected by a line running to Zygiella's parlor. She sits there like a fisherman waiting for a bite, one foot feeling the line to detect a tug. This time the victim is a mosquito. Like all spiders, Zygiella kills by biting and injecting venom. And that's one more insect to add to those millions of tons of undesirables that spiders eat up each year. Here's another version of the fishing line technique. Segestria lives in old brickwork. This spider has only managed to colonize a few sites in Britain. The web consists of a series of fine lines laid over the brickwork. Segestria sits in the middle, feet in contact with the lines. A bee wanders into the trap. It advances until it eventually touches a line. The line gives a telltale pull at the outside of Segestria's lair. The spider waits a second or two, perhaps to be quite certain the catch is really hooked. Very often the spider darts out to land its prey immediately. Like this. The bee tries to sting the spider, but the sting gets caught in the web and is pulled bodily out. The poison sac has muscles of its own which continue pumping. Now Segestria has only to immobilize the bee and eat it. One tip that John Cook passes on to bees and others who have reason to be interested in the whereabouts of Segestria: look for the debris on the ground beneath. Even spiders find parts of their meals indigestible. Remember that early morning woodland we showed covered with hundreds of gossamer webs? Here's one such web in action. And there's the victim. A green fly is caught on the scaffolding supporting a web belonging to a spider called Linifia. Linifia shakes its trap, it's called a hammock web, to dislodge the green fly onto the main catching surface. Then it drags it through. I don't imagine rose growers will feel too upset about the result of this encounter. Atipus is a purse web spider found in the south and west of Britain. The spider makes a cigar-shaped web among the grass roots. Here, Atipus lives inside this silken tunnel which hides it completely. The purse web looks rather like a root sticking out of the ground. There, the spider waits for a victim to land on the outside of the trap. The spider's entrance is at the bottom of the web. It seldom shows itself there quite as openly as this. Atipus relies entirely on feel and vibration to know when an insect has alighted on the outside of its web. It positions itself below and makes a sudden grab through the web. The fangs missed. When another green bottle settles, it is ready for action once more. This time it makes a catch. The fangs inject the poison. But now Atipus has to drag the fly into its lair. But first it allows time for the venom to take effect. When the fly begins to quieten down, Atipus deliberately cuts a slit in its own painstakingly woven web and then pulls the green bottle down into its tunnel. No one knows for sure how many species of spider there are in the world, at least 30,000, but new species are being discovered all the time. Spiders are amazingly adaptable and can exploit their habitat in so many different ways. Look at this trap built by Theridion, an uncommon British spider. These threads anchored to the ground are under tension. Not only that, they're coated with globules of glue. Theridion is unusual because it uses its web to eat ants, which most other spiders reject. There, it's caught. A small ant would have been jerked off the ground by the tension in the web, but this happens to be one of the larger species. Just the same, it's in bad trouble. Theridion climbs down the scaffolding to discover that it has caught something large and dangerous. The ant fights back by squirting formic acid at the spider. Theridion temporarily retreats until the ant is out of ammunition. Then it will return and bite it to death. Now here's a really rare event in the world of spiders. Spiders as a whole aren't all that interested in their offspring, but Theridion has a nursery full of young living in her parlor with whom she's willing to share her meals. But first she has to prise the late lamented ant from its death grip on the ground. Got it. Now, after she hauls the ant up, she'll allow the babies to come down and feed. Who would suspect all that drama was taking place in an innocent clump of heather to which you wouldn't give a second glance? This wonderful creation, with its bizarre pattern of apparently haphazard threads, is the web of an African spider called Stegodyphus. The web is often several feet long. A lot of work, you might think, for one spider. You'd be right. Stegodyphus is one of the few spiders that lives and works communally. A daddy longlegs hits the net. The web isn't sticky, but the silk has been made fluffy in order to entangle. Like a scout, the first spider arrives on the scene. For the moment, one solitary spider battles to subdue its outsized prey. But soon a whole team will arrive to tow away the defunct daddy longlegs so that it can be dismantled and they can eat it whenever they wish. Stegodyphus lives communally from choice. Other species find themselves playing unwilling hosts to spider lodgers who move into the parlor without being asked. This web is the work of Nephila, a large spider common in the southern states of America. Nephila built the web for her own use, and now she's caught a Polistes wasp that could sting her to death. Nephila is perfectly capable of dealing with such a situation. She stings the wasp before it can sting her, and then wraps it up in silk. So far, so good. There's the silk coming out of the spinnerets at the rear end of her body. So that's the wasp all wrapped up. But there is still a problem. What to do about those uninvited guests? They are tiny spiders of another species who successfully demonstrate that the world owes them a living. They eat for free. Scientists know them as commensals. Nephila could eat them at any time she liked, but she tolerates them, so perhaps they serve some purpose in her life, though every now and then she gets angry and boots them out of the way. There may be over 1 million spiders to every acre of grassland, but when you go searching for one particular species that lives on open heathland, even an expert like John Cook is tempted to doubt his own calculations. Cook was hunting for a spider called Timesus. This unsuspecting bee could be in serious danger because Timesus not only lives on heather, it looks like heather. It's a crab spider. Crab spiders are characterized by their 2 long front legs, all the better to seize the victim with. It doesn't make a web or any other kind of trap. It doesn't need to. Look at that perfect camouflage. It can rely entirely on stealth. Heather is a particularly good place to lie in ambush. So many insects visit its bell-like flowers for pollen and nectar. Here comes a prospective victim now. Now watch the incredible patience with which Timesus lets the fly walk over it. It walks so far that Timesus can't grasp it. But then the fly makes the fatal mistake of walking back. The fly is quickly subdued by poison from the spider's fangs. Timesus can be a little unnerving in close-up. It has 8 eyes with which to watch its prey. The next victim is a wasp. No one will feel particularly grieved about that, although John Cook points out that wasps do us quite a lot of good. They kill harmful caterpillars, as well as sting innocent people at picnics. Anyway, this wasp is about to meet its match. The wasp doesn't seem to notice that this particular blossom has legs. The encirclement is so slow, it's almost an embrace. But the kiss, when it comes, is the kiss of death. Macabre, fascinating, ingenious. All these adjectives describe the many ways in which spiders ensnare their victims. But that is only one aspect of their complex lives. Spiders are remarkable lovers and parents, as you'll shortly find out. Spiders are so adaptable that they've colonized almost every habitat on Earth, including one species that lives 23,000 feet up on Mount Everest. So it's not surprising that they also live on rooftops. It was on one famous Oxford roof that John Cook took us to look for a spider that has a weird courtship dance.
You never know until you begin to look the strange places that spiders can be found in. Take this barren waste on the roof of the University Museum in Oxford, freezing cold in winter, boiling hot in summer, and yet this is the home of a little jumping spider which I first discovered here at about the age of 14, that is found almost nowhere else at all. Up here in this extreme environment, it lives its whole life through. In fact, if you look closely, you'll probably be able to see here a male and female going through their courtship ritual.
Euophrus stalks its prey as stealthily as a cat and finally jumps on it. The male uses a somewhat similar approach in courtship, but his technique is far more polished than that. With his long front legs, he gives a series of enticement signals, including jerking them into a nearly vertical attitude. If he seems to be getting nowhere in this case, it's because he has picked a loser. The lady of his choice is already carrying eggs and refuses to be enticed. Even more remarkable is the courtship routine of the male wolf spider. That's him on the right, signaling to his ladylove with enlarged palps like boxing gloves. If she accepts him, she'll vibrate her front legs and let him move in closer. Male spiders face a special danger in courtship. They may end up as a meal rather than as a mate. These elaborate signals have been evolved to make sure he's welcome to call, signals in the wolf spider's case that are performed at a speed of an old flickering movie. The danger of starting out as a lover and finishing up as a leftover is considerably highlighted when your mate is 4 times as big as you are. These are 2 male nephila. And there's the female. Perhaps all small men should follow the example set by Robert the Bruce and take heart from the spider's example. This little guy not only tries but succeeds. It's somewhat like a Chihuahua propositioning a St. Bernard. In fact, here he's not courting, but perhaps even more riskily stealing a bite from the lady's meal. In the end, she makes clear that enough is enough. When he finally comes courting, however, he gets away with it. Here he is crawling with impunity over her abdomen. Amazingly, male spiders mate by means of their palps, a pair of leg-like appendages. You can see the whole process much more clearly in a species like Micromata, where male and female are more the same size. That's the male with the colorful body. He previously deposited some sperm on a tiny web woven specially for the purpose. He then absorbed the sperm with his palps and went in search of a female. With Micromata, there are few courtship preliminaries. He simply approaches her and after tapping and stroking her, places one palp at a time in an opening beneath her body. The palp is virtually locked into place, while contractions at the end complete the process. But no member of the spider fraternity has tougher courtship problems than the tarantula. This male lives in the Arizona desert, and this is the home of the female he intends to woo and win. With good luck and good management, he'll live to love another day. She is a mighty fierce lady, and so he taps on the outside of her burrow just as a human lover might tap on his girl's window. Only in this case, he doesn't want to be let in. He wants her to come out without attacking him. If he makes the correct vibrations, she'll get the message. He hopes. In this case, she seems to be getting the right vibes. Now for the actual love-making. His adult life is only 2 or 3 months anyway, but he sees no reason to shorten his prospects. The male, as usual, he's the smaller of the pair, has spurs on his front legs with which to hold the female's deadly fangs open and out of harm's way. There are the fangs now, those 2 sharp and shiny brown curved teeth, still poised menacingly above him. He forces her back all the time, never relaxing his guard for a second. It's a bit like a love scene in a James Bond movie. At last, he's able to place his palps in position. He's still tapping away for dear life. He knows another moment of supreme danger will come when he finally breaks free. For a male tarantula, the saying, "love them and leave them," has a special meaning. It's a recipe for survival. The lady returns to her burrow. Her mate goes off to try his luck elsewhere. After all, he's only got 2 months to live, if he's lucky. If he dies for love, some male tarantulas might say, it's a wonderful way to go. As for the lady, she's got the next generation to worry about. The time it takes for spider unions to bear fruit varies enormously because the females can store the sperm in their bodies for long periods. When she's ready to lay eggs, the female, this species is called Pysora, weaves a special tray of silk. Now Pysora extrudes her eggs, fertilizing them at the same moment. The eggs congeal on their silken pad. Finally, Pysora covers her eggs with silk until they are wrapped tightly inside a cocoon. There are grounds for believing that silk production originally evolved for protecting eggs, since all spiders do this, and by no means all spiders use silk for catching and wrapping prey. Those techniques may have evolved later. When it's complete, Pysora carries the cocoon around beneath her body. Other species go further than that in terms of maternal devotion. This wolf spider, Alopicosa, not only carries the egg cocoon attached to her spinnerets, but when the babies hatch out, she transports 100 or more of them on her back for the first 9 or 10 days of their lives. After that, they molt their first skin and become independent. Molting is the only way a spider can grow bigger. It has to split its old skin to emerge one size larger. This is a vivid green spider, Micromata, beginning to molt. For several days past, she'll have lost all interest in food, waiting motionless for her skin to start splitting. The split begins round the carapace, just above the legs. Then the entire carapace pivots upward like the lid of a box. Many insects and crustaceans, such as crabs and lobsters, use the same process. Some of the bigger spiders molt 10 times or more during their lives. Now, look at those legs. Spiders have 8, by the way. Insects only have 6, so don't make the mistake of calling spiders insects. Notice that Micromata has lost one of its second pair of legs. Remarkably, she's about to put that right in the molt. You'll see as she pulls her new body out that she's equipped herself with a brand new leg to replace the missing one. There it is now in the center, slightly slimmer and a lighter shade of green. The spider produces a lubricating fluid to make the whole process of emergence easier. Micromata has made it. The old skin hangs above her like a discarded glove. She'll remain there motionless and defenseless, relying on camouflage for protection until her new body hardens.
People don't usually associate spiders with water, but there are very, very few places, in fact, where one doesn't find spiders. Mountaintops, deserts, caves, they all have their characteristic faunas. And I suppose the only place where you don't find spiders are on the permanent frozen wastes of the Antarctic continent. On a pond like this, there will be quite a number of spiders living around the edge, and there are even some which hunt on the surface film of the water.
Dolomedes, the swamp spider, is one of them. Dolomedes hunts both by sight and by feeling the vibrations and ripples set up by a likely prey on the pond's surface, in this case, a caddisfly. Dolomedes has got the message. She's located on the pondweed at the left of the screen. In a moment, she'll make a dash out across the surface. She scored and makes it back to a different base with her prize. Dolomedes used to be called the raft spider because it was thought, quite wrongly, that it floated downstream on a raft of leaves bound together with silk. Swamp spider is a far more appropriate name. Here she is again, feet in the water, using her own sonar system, like a destroyer trying to pick up the beat of a submarine's propeller. This time, the prey really is a submarine one. Dolomedes is Britain's largest spider. Even so, you'd hardly expect it to catch fish. But here's a catch in super slow motion. The fish, a stickleback, has been hauled ashore. Now watch what happens from start to finish of the catch. Dolomedes sometimes dabbles its feet on the surface to attract fish. Perhaps they think the vibrations are made by an insect they themselves would like to eat, but instead they often get eaten. The fangs inject their poison. The stickleback loses the power to fight. Big as she is, the swamp spider still has quite a struggle to get her booty ashore. At last, she manages to climb up into the reeds to eat her catch.
In addition to the raft spider, Dolomedes, which lives on the water surface, there's also a spider which lives underneath the water. This is called Algaronita, and it spins its web in amongst these stems of waterweed.
Argyroneta aquatica, what a lovely name. It's a European spider that has perfected a unique way of life. No other spider in the world can live underwater. The way she exists in this unfriendly element is this. Argyroneta weaves a curved net of silk attached to water plants. Then she fills it with air. That silver sheath around her body is air brought down from the surface. A bubble is released inside the net, and the little diving bell gradually fills up with air. When she wants more air, she swims or climbs to the surface and sticks her tail through the surface film. That quick flip traps air among her body hairs. She holds the bubble there by trailing her rear pair of legs close to the body. Part of the bubble is released immediately she enters the diving bell. She turns head downwards to unload the rest, leaving enough stuck to her body to supply her when swimming. The water spider does most of its hunting for aquatic insects, even for tadpoles underwater. But it is also sensitive to the vibrations set up by prey struggling on the surface, like this injured fly. She can't actually eat in the water, so she takes the fly back to the diving bell and pushes it inside to digest in her own good time. Once the bell is filled with air, the supply lasts a long time, and it's partly replenished by the dissolved oxygen in the water. Inside, the spider is safe from its enemies, such as water beetles, dragonfly larvae, frogs, and even fish. Like any true home, the diving bell is an all-purpose structure. It's a place to eat, relax, raise a family. In the breeding season, the eggs occupy half the living space. And, of course, to make love. This is one species in which the male is often bigger than his mate, which makes him a bold suitor. That's him approaching now. His courtship is not a very subtle one. He seems to expect instantaneous success. He confines his wooing to a few leggy caresses. If she doesn't want him, she'll lunge at him and he'll retreat. But this time, he seems to have got away with it. The female seems to be luring him back into her underwater parlor where mating sometimes takes place. More often, he presses her up against the underside of the diving bell, and that's what happens this time. Whether you find spiders beautiful, beastly, or just bothersome, you're almost certainly fascinated by the alleged deadliness of some species, tarantulas, for instance. How deadly are they? Spider expert John Cook explains.
Now this is a large arboreal tarantula from Trinidad. It looks absolutely horrific. It's large and hairy and so on. But in fact it's completely harmless. I would allow my children to play with this. It's very strange how spiders have instilled a tremendous feeling of fear, even from very early times. And in fact, the European myth of the tarantula goes back a very long way in history. It was believed that if you were bitten by the tarantula, you were overcome with a sense of deep melancholy, and the only cure for this was to have a whale of a party, and you consumed large amounts of alcohol and danced until you were exhausted. And then the following morning, you woke up with the effects of the venom totally dispersed and only a mild hangover.
Tarantula bites are rarely more than temporarily very painful. The real killer, with which the tarantula has been unjustly confused, is the black widow.
Yes, this is a black widow. Contrary to popular belief, they're not large furry spiders. They are in fact quite small, almost spherical, shiny black things, easily recognized because they have a red hourglass-shaped marking on the underside of the abdomen. And they are, of course, one of the few really poisonous spiders in the world.
Extremely venomous, too, is the American brown recluse. It's found in warmer areas. Its bite can cause serious skin lesions, but is rarely fatal. To demonstrate that even the dreaded tarantula doesn't always have things its own way, John Cook took his cameras to the Arizona desert. There, he sought a very aggressive creature indeed, and at least once in his quest found more than he bargained for. No, he wasn't looking for rattlesnakes among the saguaro cacti. The creature he sought was this, a large wasp called Pepsis, which leads an innocent life by day, feeding on milkweed. Only at night does it justify its other name, tarantula hawk. By night it walks the desert just like John Cook. Like Cook, Pepsis is hunting for a burrow where a tarantula lives. Some tarantulas are too smart to be enticed out, in which case Pepsis has no choice but to find another burrow. This time it has more luck. In a scene straight out of a horror movie, the battle is joined. wasp has succeeded in stinging the spider, not to kill it, but merely to paralyze it. It doesn't intend to eat the tarantula. It has fought the battle for quite a different reason. Next, the tarantula hawk tidies up the old spider burrow it has marked down for a special purpose. This is where it is going to store its victim, an ironic reversal of the usual spider's invitation to come into its parlor. Pepsis is a large and powerful insect, but shifting rocks is only a training session for its next feat of physical exertion. But first, a brief wash and brush up. Pepsis now returns to the scene of the crime. It stings the tarantula once or twice more to make sure it is fully unconscious, though nowhere near dead. Then invariably it picks up the doped spider and drags it for quite a long way around the desert, perhaps to stimulate the tarantula sufficiently for the poison to reach all parts of its body. Sometimes it brings it back to the point at which the fight took place, and even sticks the spider down its own burrow. Why does the tarantula hawk Pepsis go to such grisly lengths? For a very good reason. Once it has hidden its victim inside the burrow, it lays a single egg on the spider's drugged body. When Pepsis's own grub hatches out in a few weeks' time, it will have a vast supply of fresh spider on which to feed and develop to become eventually another tarantula hawk. Nasty? Well, maybe. All that matters to nature is that the system works, and not even the resourceful spider always wins. We asked John Cook to single out one spider whose beauty and ingenuity excelled all others. Not unexpectedly, he said this was impossible. To him, all spiders are beautiful and ingenious. But in the end, he reluctantly agreed to put forward one candidate. The star's name is Dinopis, and she comes from Trinidad. So far, she looks like any other long, thin, brown spider. That's until you appreciate what she's doing and why she's doing it. She's making a kind of framework. On that framework, Dinopis is weaving a highly elastic net. See that woolly appearance of the silk? That is deliberate. The net itself isn't sticky. She's fluffing out the silk with special combs on her hind legs so that her prey will catch in it. Now the net is nearly complete. When she's satisfied with it, Dinopis cuts the net loose from the original framework. She descends and works out the exact distance to the ground with her front legs. There. One more preparation to be made. Dinopis stretches the net to test it. works fine. All that remains is to wait for a likely victim to walk by underneath. In super slow motion, we can see how Dinopis does it. But now let's see a catch made at real speed. She's poised, ready. Dinopis uses up a net a catch. This doesn't worry her in the least. She eats the net and wrapping silk along with her prey and then simply recycles it. The silk is ready for use again within 2 hours. So she can make several nets a night. A Dinopis is a nocturnal hunter. This time, Dinopis has caught rather more beetle than even she can handle. The net breaks and the beetle manages to get a grip on the ground. For once, the victim escapes. Dinopis stores the remains of her tattered net. She'll eat the silk later, for future use. But she isn't finished yet. Dinopis has one remarkable trick left, a disappearing trick that makes one share John Cook's sense of awe, especially when you've been right into their parlor and entered the wonderful world of spiders.
As I mentioned at the beginning of this program, this amazing film we've just seen was shot by a remarkable team of biologists and microphotographers who call themselves Oxford Scientific Films. And while the focus for the past hour has been exclusively on spiders, we couldn't resist showing you just one additional sequence the Oxford people shot for another project. It's a little classic covering the birth of a mosquito. Here's the nascent mosquito now, floating directly below the surface. The legs are coiled inside the pupa. Like a spring, they begin to unwind. The head of the pupa cracks open, ready for the mosquito to exchange a life in the water for a life in the air. The compound eye peers many lensed at the surface world. The insect twitches to free itself. Still another mosquito starts to emerge beside the first. And here comes another one. Looks like it's going to be a bad year for mosquitoes. The next time you want to swat a mosquito, you might care to reflect on the unique miracle of this superbly adapted creature, and then go ahead and swat it. This is George Plimpton inviting you to join us again next time for another classic survival wildlife special.
The preceding program was made possible by this and other public television stations.
They were fighter pilots, the heroes of World War I. No longer ordinary men, but symbols. They tried hard to live up to their legends, and the Allies' greatest legend was Billy Bishop. In the rush to create heroes, were events fabricated? How much of the Billy Bishop legend is true, and how much is myth? Find out on The Kid Who Couldn't Miss, here on Public TV.
See it next, right here on Channel 12.
Man has become the most successful, powerful, and dangerous animal on Earth. How and why did it happen? Famed anthropologist Richard Leakey searches for the answers in the new 5-part series, The Making of Mankind.
Every single one of us can trace our distant origins to people that looked like these. They too had an ancestry that goes even further back, eventually to primitive ape-like creatures living in tropical forests. This is the remarkable story I'll be tracing in this series. It's a story about the origin and past of a single common species. It's relevant to everybody on planet Earth today.
The Making of Mankind. It's the story of us all.
See it Thursday evening at 8 on Channel 12. This is WYES, Channel 12 in New Orleans, your community-supported TV station.